Hi everybody, this is Heather. I am back with another process video for the Butterfly Reflections Design team. It's been a long time. It's been too long. I actually recorded this 2 weeks ago and just getting around to doing the voiceover. I know it's terrible. I'm so ashamed. I feel like I let you guys down. I'm just kidding, but I do feel bad. I have been so super busy. Do you guys ever have a month out of a year that is just like you can't breathe? Well, May is that month for me. Just to give you some idea. So my husband and my daughter's birthdays are both in May. I have two brothers. They're both born in May. There's Mother's Day, and then there's National Scrapbook Day, which that's important too. You guys know. And then, as I mentioned, I was chosen to be a part of the design team for Butterfly Reflections Inc. Started in May, and which couldn't have been the worst month to possibly take this on. But I mean, I applied, and I'm certainly honored. But it definitely made this month just a tad busier than it normally is. And recording or posting videos on YouTube is not necessarily a design team requirement. I create my projects and I create a blog post, and I'm up on the blog every Tuesday. And I have been keeping up with that. It's just been very difficult to find the time to do the voiceover. So I'm terribly sorry about that. I thought about it often, almost daily. And I actually have one other that I have to do after this. And on top of all of that, this is the 7th attempt that I have made to do this voiceover today, because for some reason my phone has not been happy. I don't know, maybe I'm being punished because it took so long for me to get to it. So maybe I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing. This is a layout of my husband and daughter, and it is with the Doodlebug Hello collection. And I used this in my last process video as well, and I have so much left. I love this collection, and if you recall, the Butterfly Reflections Inc., it is an online store, and at this time they do not offer 12 by 12 papers, but they offer everything else. 6 by 6 paper pads and all of the embellishments, and I have all of that. And if you like to back cut files, 6 by 6 paper pads are definitely awesome for that. I know I'm not the only one who cringes every time you cut into a 12 by 12 paper just to back a cut file. I mean, I guess it depends on how big the cut file is, but the patterns are definitely smaller, which I like, and that is what I am doing. This cut file I cut out of white cardstock, which is what my background will be. And I downloaded this cut file from a course I took from Big Picture Classes, and I apologize, I cannot recall the name of the class, but I loved it. It had this heart background that was made of these flowers, and then there were some loose flowers, which I cut a bunch of. So I am backing all of them with all of the beautiful pattern papers. And in the beginning, while I was rambling on about how busy my month was, I actually started out with trying to use all of the flowers from the die cut package, and I was going to put them in a heart. I just didn't like it. So I decided to dig out my silhouette and start with that. And I'm really happy actually with the way that it turned out. So now that all my flowers are backed, I am using my Prima oil pastels, which you can find in the shop as well, to create a background. I have already applied a layer of clear gesso on my white cardstock, and it's just a piece of, I I believe it's American Crafts. I don't recall the color of it, but I buy it in a huge pack because I use it often for my background or to cut files, which I often cut in white because I don't know whether I'm going to back them or color them. And I've mentioned this before, I actually cut a lot of cut files at once. I just spend quite a bit of time cutting out ones, and I keep them on hand for when I want to use it. So I don't usually start a layout and then cut the cut file that I'm planning to use, if that makes sense. So that's what I have. And so I was going to back that heart with the pattern papers, but I thought it would be nice to have the watercolor on the background peeking through the heart and the flowers, the heart flower. I'm not really sure what I should call that. So that's why I decided to just back all the little flowers, and I cluster them in a couple of different areas on my page. And I really like the way that it turned out. The oil pastels, if you haven't used these, how do I describe them? I mean, they have properties similar to gelatos, distress crayons. They're basically watercolor because they're water reactive. And you can use your finger to smudge them. You can add water to them with the smushing technique with some plastic packaging. I mean, you guys have seen that stuff all before, but basically all I did was I pulled out the colors that would match the papers, and I did it a couple of different ways. You see me scribbling it on a piece of plastic packaging. I add some water, and then I smushed it on the background. And then in some areas, I actually just took the oil pastel, and I say oil pastel, but they're not really, are they? I'm not sure. I mean, they're reactive with water, and I know not all oil pastels are. Maybe someone can correct me. maybe I should have done a little homework, but I love them, and I love how bright they are, and you can use them just like gelatos. And what's nice is how bright they are even when they dry. Now that one right there is the white, and obviously it's not going to do much on a piece of white cardstock, but it does sort of tone down any brightness if you wanted to add a little bit of shading, and that's all that I was doing. I think some of the pink was a little bright. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm done with the background. And then I was thinking, why not add more? I decided to hand stitch around the edge of this heart. Now, if you have been watching my videos since I started, this is a fairly new technique for me. I mean, I've been sewing for quite some time. See, I'm showing it there. And I just did with white thread, and it's kind of difficult to see it in the video, but in real life, it looks, you can tell, and it just adds to the texture, and I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. So it's nothing fancy. I just did a straight stitch, hand stitch, and I have done some hand stitching on 3 layouts now, and I'm not entirely comfortable with it yet. I know a lot of people are doing a lot more hand stitching on their layouts, and it all looks beautiful. Some of it can be very time consuming. I take sometimes too much time deciding on my layout and the plan and the design and the embellishments, and to add the effort of hand stitching I'm just not in love with it that much, but I do love the way that it looks. It always looks so nice when it's done, and I'm happy with what I did there, and just add the white thread. And I think it was 6 threads. I think I only used 3. I didn't want it to be too bulky. So I have layered my photo on a couple of the pattern papers, and using the flowers that I backed with the pattern papers to cluster around my photo, and then in the upper left hand side of the heart, there are also a few of the die cut flowers that I had left over from the odds and ends package from this collection. That's what they call it, odds and ends. And there were so many pieces. Those leaves there that you see, some of them have gold foil on it, which I love. Those were also included in the package. And then there's a couple of little hearts, like the solid pink and dark blue that you see. Those are the Doodlebug papers, but I used a die set that I had from my stash to cut a few smaller flowers to add, just to layer on top. And the way that this layout is designed now is pretty much how I end up keeping it. I started going through the other embellishments that I had. There was another package called Chit Chat, which it had a ton of speech bubbles and big word die cuts, and I went back and forth for quite a bit deciding which one I was going to use, and I end up using the one that you see there on the left that says Adorbs, because it fit really well underneath the photo. I didn't want to add too much after I had layered the photos. I wanted to keep the outside of the heart pretty simple. And the Adorbs, it wasn't my favorite title, but it fit perfectly right there at the bottom of my photo. And the color was perfect. I really love all the bright colors in this collection, and the 6x6 paper pad is perfect to back these kind of cut files. So if you check out the shop, just keep in mind, yes, there aren't any 12x12 papers, but if you're like me and you use white cardstock a lot, I buy that in bulk. And the 6x6 paper pads are so useful for me when I'm matting my photos and I'm backing cut files. So check it out. It is a packed shop full of products, old and new. There's some older things in there too, which are nice. I think she has some things in clearance, so you might be able to get some good products with a little bit of a discount. I was just showing you there that I added some splatters with the same colors that I used for the background. I added some journaling in the bottom right, just explaining this was a day we spent at the park, and it was a really nice spring day. And my daughter actually allowed me to take her photo, which is rare. She's 10. She just turned 10. She thinks she's a teenager now, which I have to kindly remind her that that's not entirely true. So that is my finished layout. I really hope that you enjoyed listening to me ramble on. I hope that you found some inspiration, and you head over to Butterfly Reflections Inc. online store to check out their products. It's great prices, and shipping is extremely fast. You won't be disappointed. Thank you so much. Have a great day.